In the stifling heat of August, Kurdish forces battle the jihadists of Islamic State. It was here at Jalala, less than 100 miles from Baghdad, that the Peshmerga halted the IS advance. The Kurds are backed by US air power. But Jalala is on the border with Iran, and Iran is providing most of the support. There is more to this than a battle against a group of brutal jihadists. Iran is waging a campaign here for control of Iraq and also for its influence in the wider Middle East. And at the heart of that campaign, in the shadows, has been one man. General Qasem Soleimani, head of the Quds Force, the covert external wing of Iran's Revolutionary Guards. In Tehran, he has the ear of Ayatollah Khamenei himself. But in Iraq, he's been cited taking personal command of Shia militia groups. Soldiers and politicians blanch at the very mention of his name.
His power comes from the fact that he deals directly with units on the ground. He's not afraid to travel into Syria, into Iraq, meet with Iraqi politicians, extremely influential in the political sphere, but also militarily.
Off camera, people told us that Iran has sent artillery and advisors to support the Kurds at Jalala, that Qasem Soleimani was here, commanding the Iranian forces.
This is the last point of the Peshmerga. You see off the hill, on the other side, it's ISIS.
At the front line, the Kurds are keen to show us how antiquated their weaponry is. It's hard to see how they could have taken this position from Islamic State on their own. I asked the colonel whether he'd had any help from Qasem Soleimani.
No, not here.
Nobody's seen him? No, anyone here seen him? Qasem Soleimani? Anyone? No one at all? No. He's like a ghost. I just heard from you. No one's heard of him. It's extraordinary. He's the most powerful man in Iraq no one's ever heard of. But one local Kurdish commander confirmed to the BBC that Qasem Soleimani had indeed visited this front line on a number of occasions, and he agreed to reveal the extent of Iranian involvement here.
Iran sent 16 truckloads of weapons. They sent big artillery, they sent monitors, 2 big rocket launchers, 3 or 4 smaller ones. They sent a mortar battalion too.
At the Iranian border, the Ayatollahs keep a watchful eye over traffic crossing into Iraq. The battles for Iraq and for Syria are part of a wider campaign for control of the Middle East between Shia Iran and the Sunni powers of the Gulf. In Lebanon, Soleimani has nurtured Shia Hezbollah. In Syria, he's bolstered President Assad. In this not-so-cold war, he's become one of Iran's most potent weapons. Up until 2003, Iraq was a vast barrier, a geographical and political bloc between Iran and its Shia allies to the west in Syria and in Lebanon. But then came the US-led invasion, and the Americans, by removing Saddam Hussein, also removed that barrier to Iran's ambitions for its expansion in the region.
Qasem Soleimani wants to make sure that groups, whether they're in Lebanon, in Syria or Iraq, are dependent on Iran for survival. Many of the militia groups fighting in these countries, and there are various, it's not just 1 or 2, do rely directly on Qasem Soleimani. And of course this enables the Iranians to have more leverage.
A senior Iraqi official told us that when the city of Mosul fell, it was swift intervention by Iran, more than US airstrikes, that prevented a broader collapse. Many in Iraq fear their country's becoming dependent on Iran for its very survival, that Soleimani's militias, as providers of security, are becoming an instrument of Iranian political control.
The weakness of Iraq with unstable situation give Iran more rule.
A bigger role?
Yeah, a bigger. Because most of the Iraqi decision was made in Iran, not in Iraq. All the Iraqi politicians, when they have bigger problems, they went to Tehran to solve that problems.
They go to Tehran?
Yes.
Qasem Soleimani is a veteran of the Iran-Iraq war. He appears in public only rarely, sometimes at a funeral for a member of his Quds force, where he's known, on occasion, to shed a tear. Those who've met him speak of a man who achieves much by saying little, a man of intimidating intensity, and above all, of focus.
He's been up and down the country, in the north, in the south, in the capital, checking up on the defences, mobilising the Shia militias, making sure that the Iraqi state and the Shia militias that are assisting the Iraqi security forces are able to confront the threat from ISIS.
After 8 years of occupation and billions of dollars spent, the Americans are being outmanoeuvred. At the end of last month, American airstrikes helped break the siege of Amerli, a town that had been encircled by IS. But who sweeps in to take credit for this victory? Enter Qasem Soleimani. Here he is, celebrating, gun in hand, proof of his presence on the ground.
Qasem
Soleimani came to visit us. He saw the situation and his visit helped raise our spirits.
At the Iranian border, the advance of the jihadists has been checked, but they're not defeated. Iraq is becoming a client state, reliant on the muscle of the Shia militias and on weapons from Tehran. And in the battle against Islamic State, the Americans, as much as the Iraqis, are now dependent on Iran.